Good evening, everyone. I've been doing a lot of hey lately, so I thought I'd try a good evening, Andy. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the late night happy hour. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky, coming to you tonight. Waiting for Wosny Lambre from the Athletic going to be joining us momentarily. Love Big Waz and a lot of good NBA stuff coming up. Tom Brady forgot what down it was. Mel Gibson has released a crazy trailer.
Yes, he has.
And there's a lot to do tonight, Waz. How are you?
What's up, fellas? I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. The last time we saw you've still got the same background. Like we're always keeping track of everybody's background and like how much they're putting into the construction of their background. And I actually admire in some ways the guys that just say, you know what, I'm not turning this into a damn production.
No. I'm literally doing this from my dining room table. This is essentially my office. So
I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
This is the setup.
Well, I mean, I actually, what's funny about this, is this is actually a Zoom background. I went with blinds.
Very creative of you.
Yeah, I mean, my house is, I'm not gonna lie, it is fucking unreal. And I just don't want people looking at it. So I don't want people seeing how I live, because as an important member of the media, you know how this is. Well, it's like,
right.
we make tremendous amounts of money, just tremendous. The wealth is garish, and these are tough times. People don't want to see that. So I've had this made, blinds.
That's good, because then folks can't see the Rolls Royce and the Ferrari in the driveway. Right. It's good. You got to keep those blinds
or just the constant butlers just walking past in the background, catering to every one of Brian's needs. Like, it's just not the right time.
Do I need 18 of them?
No.
The only way to find out is to try to get by with 15, and I'm not doing that. No.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld would disagree. He would say you need all the cars ever made.
So I saw you throwing a little shade tonight at Tom Brady. We will get to the NBA stuff here. But he apparently forgot what down it was. He lost the Chicago Bears because he forgot what down it was.
Listen, the people need to know, although I am a respected, unbiased, member of the media, my misery as a Jets fan supersedes all of that. So watching terrible Tom Brady, look his age finally, for the love of God, filled my heart with some joy tonight, watching him not know the down on the most crucial play of the game. And also, I want to say, guys, the Bucks deserve to lose that game, because they get a 4th and 1 inside of like 6 yards from the end zone, and they kick a field goal. Like, I'll never understand as a coach how the message to your guys can be, we can't get a yard. The game's on the line.
Yeah.
I come in every day demanding accountability and all this shit from players, all this stuff. Excuse me, my language.
No, it's okay. You can. We're Indy now.
Now you do whatever you want.
All this fucking shit.
Get
it from players, and and in the middle of the basically the nut crunching time of the game, you go soft. You go, oh, let's kick a field goal and go up 2. Get a freaking yard. Tom Brady's I think his percentage converting on 4th and short is probably one of the greatest of all time.
Well, if not the greatest. He's one of the all-time great sneak guys.
Yeah.
I mean, all we ever talk about is Tom Brady's ability just to run that sneak to get a yard.
Right. And so they kick a field goal to go up 2, because that's a big deal. And they lose the game because of it. So I'm happy that happened. Not just because I hate Tom Brady or sports hate. Obviously, I don't hate the guy. I don't know anything about him. But I was happy to see that tonight.
It's funny. It's like I love when this sort of thing happens, where you learn, wait a minute, do I dislike the team, or really did I dislike the player? Like, growing up, I hated Notre Dame. Hated them. And as I got older, it turns out I actually hated Lou Holtz. Notre Dame, I don't have a problem with Notre Dame. I actually like their helmets. The uniforms look great on TV. I mean, go Irish. It's fine.
See, I actually had the opposite, I guess, route into my distaste for Lou Holtz. For me, it was because I went to USC, and USC has the Notre Dame rivalry. So that was my discovery that I didn't even have to think about it. I just threw everything together and realized I don't like Lou Holtz. I actually hate Lou Holtz. It was very weird for me and uncomfortable to be a quasi colleague of his during our time at ESPN. To have to be like 10 degrees of separation, like collegial towards.
And of course, now it's worse. Like the idea of being a colleague of his now just seems really, really, really unappealing.
Well, yeah, he's gone in some directions, let's just say, outside of the sports side. He's been very public about his support for certain things in this country and whatever. I never liked Lou Holtz, but the Notre Dame sort of tracks with, and it's funny, Brian, with a lot of stuff that turns me off in sports. Like, for instance, like Notre Dame and Duke, it's like the same thing. It's like these cultural dog whistles. Well, Duke used to send back before they accepted cheating like everybody else. But these cultural dog signals about like the Duke program and what it meant to be a Duke player and what Mike Krzyzewski stood for and Notre Dame and the Catholics and this, and we're on the side of Jesus and all of that. Like that kind of stuff always made me roll my eyes. And, a lot of stuff in sports makes me roll my eyes. Like when we glorify certain types of super fans, like that shows the game blue paint all over his body. I'm like, why would we glorify this kind of behavior? People can buy tickets, watch games, buy jerseys, like feed into the sports industrial complex. So people like us can get paid while not looking ridiculous. I don't know.
It's why I respect, with Louisville, Patino's just like, hey guys, you think it's like if we brought strippers in, would that help us get better players? Okay, strippers. Let's do the strippers, guys. We're going with the stripper plan. What do you think?
Those guys are 18 years old, Brian. There's nothing wrong with that. Those guys are 18. We can send them off to war. We can let them see a tit or two. It's okay. Nobody's gonna die.
No, I understand.
It's just one of those things, though, that in the world that we live in with college sports rules and whatever, that's a tough one to explain away. That's a very difficult. Right. That's a very difficult. Oh, I didn't realize we couldn't do that. I didn't see that specifically in the NCAA.
Well, it's an extra benefit.
Yes. And
we were talking yesterday. We were with Greg Bergman. I mentioned that I used to be a kindergarten teacher, which is true. And one of the things that once came up with one of the kids is she threw a rock at another kid. And I was like, we can't do it. She's like, well, you never said we couldn't throw rocks at people. Like, first of all, I'm pretty sure I did. Well, you can't throw rocks.
Even at age 6, you can't do that.
Right. Like you know that. And so it's like, even if it doesn't say specifically in the rule book, like no bringing strippers to your, student athlete's dorm, you're not supposed.
There are certain things that are just assumed.
Well, here's the general rule of thumb. If you wouldn't have pitched it to that kid's parents in their living room when you decided that you were going to take on this patriarchal sort of role in the kid's, life by having him come to Louisville, if you wouldn't say we're going to get him all the lap dances he wants, if you wouldn't have said that in the recruiting pitch, probably shouldn't be doing it.
Do you think Tark actually did pitch that in the living rooms that he went around across the country? He's like, look, I know who your son is. I promise I will keep your son steeped in lap dances if he attends UNLV. I can make you this promise. If he goes to Fresno State, that kid will be up to his neck in lap dances.
So, my significant other is an Armenian woman, and through her, I've met a lot of Armenian men. And Tark being a proud Armenian cat himself, it wouldn't surprise me, is what I'm saying.
I have to set this up properly before it sounds like I'm speaking really out of school.
Hey, the Armenians love to party. They love to party.
That is fun. I do like the idea, though, of the coach, at some either notoriously unscrupulous program, or you start getting to like D2, D3, in some of the more disreputable programs. It's like, look, would you like your kid to have lap dances? Because I can
do that. I mean, I know a guy.
I'm not saying I will get your kid a lap dance. I'm just not saying that I'll prevent it. Like, which direction do you want to go?
Yeah, that was one of my favorites, just because it's so ludicrous that would be part of any sort of package that was offered, but at the same time, these are young men, especially when you consider the amount of testosterone involved in being that age and being an athlete. Actually was quite prescient of the assistant coaches and Rick Pitino to do that.
Which school was that again? That the strippers happened?
Louisville.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, it could be any of the places that he goes, but
that's why I had to ask.
Particular one was Louisville.
Well, Rick Pitino was just, he had the sordid affair with his buddy's wife, and Rick Pitino's like, his flaming out in Louisville that's going to be an incredible 30 for 30 someday.
Yes. Yes, it will be. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit just how much I want to watch it.
Oh, there's nothing embarrassing about that at all. I mean, I've watched episodes of Below Deck. I mean, you think comparatively speaking, the Rick Pitino 30 for 30 is high class television. So
like the section where they cover him being a 2-pump chump. That's just going to be it's just going to be classic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the moral of this whole story is it turns out I actually don't dislike the Patriots. I just dislike Tom Brady.
There you go.
Now that he's gone, they got Cam Newton. You got a quarterback that I like. I mean,
I found myself rooting for them when they drove all the way down against Seattle and it came down to one play. I was actually super disappointed that they didn't convert. I think the last time I rooted for Patriots was the Super Bowl against Brett Favre. I don't know why I just didn't want Brett Favre to win. I don't know why. I just didn't want the Packers to win. And I remember being at the house rooting against them and rooting for Drew Bledsoe and Terry Glenn, Curtis Martin and Big Tuna.
You're more of a Levi's guy than a Wrangler guy? I mean, is that what it was?
Probably. That probably had something to do with it.
Yeah, here's the thing about Brady for getting that down that I don't want to say humanizes him because I'm not asking anybody to like him, but is a real stars, they're just like us moment. He's 43 years old. And, we talk about him showing his age, I think some last year, but certainly this year as a quarterback. Is there a chance that he forgot what down it is because he's just starting to get up there? Because I know in my 40s, I forget everything. Like, I cannot remember a damn thing at my particular age. And, it's definitely began in the 40s. So is there a chance that he just had like a beginning of a senior moment?
You know what it is? Like, I actually have a terrible memory as well. And so I can't be one to brag over here, but I really think what it is that because he's in a brand new environment, he's just thinking about too many things. Like, there's just not a bunch of assumed knowledge, or he's not playing subconsciously right now because there's just so much newness that he has to factor into all of his decisions, from, the coach to the guys that he's throwing to his O-line. I just think that's what's really contributing to it. Like, the information overload caused him to just, I
also think the point you made before about you deserve to lose for not going in 4th and 1. You're inside 100%. The and the other, by the way, the other quarterback is Nick Foles, and it's the Chicago Bears offense. Like, you're going to get the ball back on the 40 anyway.
Nick Foles is his kryptonite. What are you talking about? He's the Brady killer.
Man, I'll never forget that Super Bowl because it was actually my first birthday after having moved here to LA. So I moved in September. My birthday was February 6th. My friends from home decided that they would visit LA instead of me going to New York to celebrate my birthday. They was about 5 of my buddies from home visited. They rented a house in the hills in Studio City in the mountains. And they were like, yo, why don't we throw a Super Bowl party on your birthday? So the Super Bowl landed on my birthday. And this house, it was a dope house, had this big pool and yard and all of this stuff. So we invited a bunch of people over. Just had a great
friends, man.
yeah. My friends they're psychopaths. And so we invited a bunch of people over, had a great time. I just remember being obscenely drunk and just being so happy that the Patriots lost that game. Thank you, Nick Foles, for delivering me one of the greatest birthday presents of my entire life.
I mean, there really isn't. I mean, unless you are from Boston or Massachusetts and just that's how you grew up rooting for the Patriots, and everybody can understand
they're not
that.
A national team at all.
Right.
No.
But I mean, is particularly during the Brady era, like specifically the Brady era, rooting for Tom Brady, if you're not just inherently organically a Patriots fan, is essentially like rooting for the guy who dates a supermodel to find a hotter supermodel. Like, you're really rooting for him just to one day.
Kind of what he did.
Right. But I mean, it is. I mean, but like basically you're rooting, it's the football equivalent of saying, you know what? He's with Giselle, but I really hope he can do better. I really hope he can find somebody hotter and more successful than Giselle.
Started with Bridget Moynihan.
I know.
Hardly an unattractive lady.
Listen, as much of a gut punch the Seahawks Super Bowl was, where it's like I could just taste victory, and it was just ripped from under me because Pete Carroll wanted to get cute and throw the ball. The Eagles Super Bowl was great, but the Falcons meltdown was horrible, but nothing will ever top 18-1. Nothing. And I say that as a Jets fan who hates the Giants. Like, I hate the Giants. But I'm pretty sure my greatest memory as a sports fan is derived from the joy I felt when the Patriots went 18-1. I'll never forget that cornerback falling down on the floor and slipping, and Plaxico just being wide open in the end zone. I'll never forget that feeling. My older cousin Pat was actually with me at the house watching the game, and we hugged each other like we had just won the lottery. It was crazy. That was just my
what do they say?
Favorite
what do they say?
Moment.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And even
hey now,
the Giants. But I mean, my father-in-law is a Jets fan. It's a whole other circle of hell. Like
I was going to say, you being a Jets fan and everything that comes with being a Jets fan, I feel like you're sort of, if not grandfathered in, you are allowed a certain amount of allowances to offset your suffering. Like, for example, Brian and I are from St. Louis, and growing up as a kid, I was a diehard St. Louis Cardinals fan, now Arizona Cardinals fan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I loved those teams. They were torturous, horribly run. I mean, like, you think that Bill Bidwell's son has been at times a train wreck. You never saw his father. Like, his father, Bill Bidwell, was among the worst owners in the history of professional sports. They were torturous to loss. Then they moved when I was like 13, and they broke my heart. So when the Rams beat the Titans in 99, I got myself all excited about this because I felt like there was a part of my loyalty to those shitty Cardinals years in St. Louis being rewarded by extension, by proxy and being adjacent to it. And then I came to realize within like a year, I don't give a shit about the Rams. Like, I don't care about that team at all. Like, I try to root for them the next year, and it's like, I don't care about them. I wanted to be rewarded for everything that I went through. Yeah. And I felt some type of reward, but then I realized I don't care about that team in the same way. You never considered being a Giants fan, I'm sure.
I put this out on the chat. What team makes its fans suffer more than the Jets? Like, the Jets are currently doing
maybe
things
this team.
Cool.
Is it possible?
Yes, it's very possible. Very possible. Yankees. The Jets are. So you and my father-in-law would get along great. He's a Jets-Yankees guy. I know you have to.
No, I'm Jets. I'm Jets and Mets. I'm Jets and Mets.
I'm sorry, Jets Mets. That's what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is no misery. And then I was smart enough to never have rooted for the Knicks, because when I got into basketball, like, I was so obsessed with Michael Jordan because I was like, I'm a hooper. I'm obsessed with excellence in hooping. of why would I be rooting for Charles Oakley and John Starks? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I was a huge Jordan fan. And so when Jordan retired, I just became like sort of a NBA agnostic or atheist or whatever you want to call it. I just don't have a team. I just root for excellent basketball.
There is no God, Was. Just Michael Jordan. There is no God.
Right. And so I'm very happy to not have the Knicks burden and stench on me. But trust me, the Mets and the Jets do plenty to bring misery in my life.
Here's a candidate. Here's a candidate for a team that makes their fans suffer more. Now, on the one hand, the Clippers have been significantly better than the Jets over the last few years.
Oh, yeah.
The Clippers, as bad as things have been this year, are not running whatever Adam Gase is doing right now in New York. But is it more torturous? Like, is it better to be better and never get there, or just constantly beat your fan base down like the Jets?
Dude, there's no comparison. The Clippers have basically have 10 years of sustained competence and success.
Yeah.
Essentially since they traded for Chris Paul. It's been nothing but competence over there.
Yeah.
Jets have never in the history of this team had 10 years or 4 years straight of competence. There were the Parcells years where we were competent. But other than that, it's been like, 2 and out, 1 and out, 11-5 straight season here or there, and that's it.
I guarantee if you ask Sam Darnold which team tortures you more, the Jets or the Clippers, you're gonna be like, are you fucking kidding me? Seriously?
Like, this is a bad.
Is this a question?
The Marlins have terrible seasons, but the Marlins have won 2 World Series.
No, there's it's the Jets.
It's not the Marlins.
I don't even know who you even compare it to.
I forgot how many titles they've won.
User 4523 says Jets were good when y'all had Darrell Revis.
No, we had the 2 AFC championship teams with Rex Ryan, and those teams were fun, but they were quarterbacked by the Sanchez. At the end of the day, like, he had his 4 best games ever in his life in those 2 playoff runs, and the rest of it, if you look at it, was complete and utter garbage.
Here's a good choice.
Oh, the Browns. Oh my Lord. Yeah, the Browns.
That might be.
They got me.
I mean,
they got me.
Yeah, it's at least the Jets have something as cool as the guarantee. Or there's certain things that they can hang their hat on if they're really, really trying. Or at least they can think about like the 2016 title with LeBron. Like, you got something. You've got something.
Well, the real answer, I think, actually, the real answer is probably the Mets. I mean, sorry, is the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks. So the Knicks now have basically had 20 years of utter ineptitude. That's a crazy long run, right? Like, they had since Dolan bought the team, they had one, I think, second round exit with that Sprewell, Allen Houston nucleus, right? They had that 1 second round exit, and then they had the 54-win team with Melo and Tyson Chandler and those guys when Melo played the 4, and they did the sort of 4-out super 3-point team offense, and that's it for 20 years. 20 years.
Right, and this is where I think this is the distinction, I think, between the Knicks and the Jets. Football, you get a great draft pick. You need 3, 4, 5, 6 guys. You got to put 22, 11 on each side, all that stuff. You need a lot of good players. Basketball, you need 2. Like, to at least get somewhere, like you need to get 2 guys to come in,
right.
1 guy, 2 guys, whatever it might be. And you're in New York. You play in Madison Square Garden. This is a basketball city. You have more money than you know what to do, and they still can't do it. Like,
that just
you need 1 guy. You get 1 guy.
To me, that just illustrates the importance of ownership within the NBA. Like, that is the biggest determining factor of success in this league. Is what is ownership doing? Are they smart enough to empower the smartest and best people? That's the job of the owner. If you have an owner who's like, shit, I paid $600 million for this. I'm gonna be in charge. I'm gonna be making decisions. I want to do this. I want to do that. Even though I made my money, selling stocks and bonds.
No, he was given his. I mean, he was given his money for talking about
not
Dolan
James Dolan. I'm just talking about Joe Owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
James Dolan, literally a trust fund baby. Like this guy, his dad just said, "Here's the New York Knicks, right? Like one of the best sports properties in the world. Here, just have it, kid."
He's about to ruin the AMC network, by the way. James Dolan. He just got that signed over from his dad. He's going to be running. Wow. I believe he's going to be running the AMC network. So I get, wow. I personally, I feel like The Walking Dead's been going downhill for years, but I can promise you all the offshoots, that thing's going to suck now.
See, guys, here's the thing. What we are is we're a band, and we were caught out during the thing where the zombies were out. And so we're like, the band's got to stay together, and we work together because we're a band.
And we opened up for Jewel.
God. We kill the zombies using my harmonica.
Yeah. It is something that we do in this country where, like, I maybe it's universal, but like American rich people in particular, like there is a real tendency to assume that because you're good at one thing, that you're going to be good at that other thing over there. Like I don't doubt that Jerry Jones is really good at whatever it is that Jerry Jones did to make all that money that he has, but he's not that good at running a football team. Like,
no, but that's the thing.
Have anything to do with the other.
Might makes right. So if you have money, then therefore, obviously you're a genius. Obviously, you're more competent than the guy flipping burgers at Burger King because you have all this money. How else would you be able to attain all of this money if you weren't such a hyper, intelligent, competent, useful human being? That's how people think anyway. But NBA owners disprove that every single day.
Yes.
I mean, have you heard of Tillman Furtada?
Yes.
Oh my
yes,
God,
they do.
That guy.
Yeah, seems like a pleasure.
Been listen.
Feels like a pleasure to be in his employ.
Right.
Well, this is actually a good seg into the we're kind of in an NBA off day, Game 5 tomorrow. We'll get into it in a few minutes here, and what we think is going to happen, and what happens after we all think is going to happens. Executive of the Year voting came out today. So Jeannie Buss, who is a good owner in the sense of not like institutionally wealthy like these other people, but an owner who does and kind of gets out of the way. Make a choice about who you think is the right person, and she generally doesn't meddle. So that's good. Rob Pelinka finished 7th in the voting, and was, as you might guess, Laker fans have reacted with rational acceptance to this news. How much credit, is that fair? Is 7th fair for Rob Pelinka for a team that's going to go 16-4 probably and win an NBA title for Executive of the Year?
I think that his finishing in the media voting sort of demonstrates that I noticed throughout this year, which I just found to be jarring, is just that the media collectively sometimes has a hard time accepting when they're wrong about something. When the Lakers came out of their last season, out of the offseason last summer, people mocked and laughed at the roster they constructed. They said Kawhi played them like a fiddle. He made them wait and wait while never intending to sign, made them take scraps, and the Lakers constructed a terribly flawed team. By the way,
it's being pointed out, and the media, the exec is actually voted by other execs. As opposed to media.
Okay, so it's not me.
Yes.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
By the way, also don't like Rob.
Yes, it doesn't mean that there's not some biases going on, but just make sure.
But I think it's still related to the media in the sense that a lot of the information they're getting is from rival execs. Like a lot of their opinions are informed by talking to guys around the league, and people were mocking this team, this roster construction. It happened. I remember it. I was in Vegas in Summer League, during Summer League when this all went down. It was the Lakers are in huge trouble. Oh my God, the Clippers are freaking geniuses. They're going to blow people out the water. That was the sentiment that came out of it. And if you can't you can't argue with the results. Like this team, and also like I think what gets lost in all of this, like they put together, like the guy put together AD and LeBron. Like what people need to understand is that those role guys were never going to be asked to save or carry this team. It was going to be the two of the most awesome basketball players we've ever seen. And so, yes, of course, it's ridiculous.
But that ultimately though ends up
ahead,
that ultimately ends up, I think, the problem or the sticky point of the resentment, whatever you want to say, with Rob Pelinka standing in this voting, because there are a lot of people, and I don't think entirely without cause, who ultimately feel like getting Anthony Davis was either not that difficult in negotiating, in the sense that the Lakers literally gave up everything other than Kyle Kuzma. Like they gave up everything they had to give up, or that ultimately this was more Rich Paul's work or LeBron James's work, or hell, even David Griffin's work.
Well, in the sense, especially too, in the sense of like, it's not like they were competing against 6 other teams to get AD. It was like, he's either coming here or I guess he's not moving. And you know, I don't know if that was the most difficult trade to execute.
But the pieces though, but the pieces around him,
you keep, you know,
right. So and being honest, as much as I think Rob Pelinka did do, and you know, to his credit, I think Brian and I both gave him credit in that moment. Like we were not highly critical of the roster that he put together heading into this season, as much as we had been fairly critical of Rob Pelinka and the front office last season. And I think with cause, because it was quite clearly chaos. But, you know, ultimately this team is as great as it is because of the foundation of LeBron and Anthony Davis, and the question of how much credit Rob Pelinka deserves for that, I think if nothing else is fair to ponder, because it's the context was so specific.
Yeah, I hear that. While I hear that, I just shake my head, and it's just like people mock the moves that they made, like the Rondo and the Howard and all of this.
That's true.
And remember the stuff about Pelinka not understanding the salary cap as intricately as dorks on Twitter do, which is great. That's fine. That's not the job. In your job as Lakers GM, you don't have to win on the margins. You're the freaking Lakers. Mm-hmm. So in his job was to acquire superstars, and that's what they did. And now they're on the brink of a championship. He did his job. Like, you can't compare his job to GMing, say, the Denver Nuggets, who has an ownership group who will never, ever spend into the luxury tax, right? So that GM he doesn't operate the same way the GM of the Lakers have, because that's a different job. I remember I got into an interesting conversation with some people on Twitter when it came to Daryl Morey and the Westbrook trade. And I was like, hey, man, I don't think that, like, Daryl Morey has kind of told you his MO. Russell Westbrook's not a Morey player. He's the most anti-Morey player ever. And so that shows you that was an ownership thing. But what I was told was basically, and I agree with, and I was wrong for saying that about Morey, part of your job as the GM is to convince your owner not to do something stupid like that. So if you don't have the juice within your organization to veto something like that, you're bad at your job. Okay, so Rob Pelinka, just by nature of the team, he did a good job. Like, there's no other way to put. You can say LeBron wanted to be, next to Warner Brothers Studios here in LA, or AD wanted to play with LeBron and blah 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 blah. And Rob Pelinka is not some genius mastermind like Masai Ujiri. That's cool, but he effectively did his job. He put together a team that's about to win the freaking championship.
Well, this is one of the things I think is interesting about this conversation is, like, if you take advantage of the things that are advantageous to wherever you happen to be, like the things that come with your particular gig. And with the Lakers, it's like, yeah, there is an element of just get out of the way, but that to me is something that is worth giving somebody credit for. Again, I'm not giving him all the credit. Like, clear the runway, let LeBron land the plane at your airport. Clear the runway, let AD come there. And if it means Rich Paul's going to be doing that, it means you got to give up a little extra, whatever it is. If these guys want it, like, that's one of the perks of being the GM of the Lakers. What makes it hard is now you have those superstars. Now you've got to make sure that what's happening inside your organization works and that the communication's good. And you got to babysit agents and you got to babysit egos. And like, that's the hard part. And so I think when you try to figure out who's the executive of the year, it's not the roster, I think, that Pelinka put together, where if you want to point to something and say, like, look what they did over there, it's the fact that there was zero drama on this team. And that's Frank Vogel, that's LeBron, that's AD, that's all this stuff. But I'm sure there was like political shit going on somewhere behind. Like there was stuff that needed to be smoothed out here and there. And if there wasn't, then great job for setting it up that way. That's the hard part of being the GM of the Lakers.
Yeah, 100%. Again, the ego management that has to go into this when you consider the people who are involved and their histories, right? Like, Rajon Rondo still not talking to Ray Allen, obviously we know about Dwight's history. Like we're talking about some mercurial, let's say, guys, right? DeMarcus Cousins, like Bron, like these are insanely big personalities and you didn't hear a peep of it.
Mm-hmm.
A peep of it. In fact, when I talked to Danny Green before the season, and I keep telling this story because I think it's important. I'm doing a Q&A with him. I'm on the phone. I know you guys have spoken to Danny Green before. He's the most professional person on planet Earth. Like, he will not say something interesting. He's not going to rock the boat. He is going to go straight down the line. And I'm like,
he's a nightmare to transcribe.
It's weird.
It's the weirdest thing. He is a nightmare to transcribe, and I don't know, nobody can figure out why, but all of the people who cover this team, like, we have these communal Google Docs that we all share, and we trade off transcribing after games so everybody can just help out everyone. We can get this stuff done as quick as possible. Nobody wants to transcribe Danny Green.
It makes no sense because he's easy to understand if you're just talking to him. It's not like you're like, what did he just...
There's something about his cadence, or I don't know what it is, but he's really difficult.
Bizarre.
But continue.
Yeah, so, and, we're talking about the team, and Danny Green's like, it's early, but I just love the chemistry of this team. He's like, there's guys from such a diverse background within the league, guys who've been superstars and all-stars and all-NBA guys and role player types and six-man types and all of that. Like, he's like, there's such a diverse experience and knowledge of the NBA around here. And there's such a shared level of respect, mutual respect going on all around this team. I really love the chemistry. And I remember sitting on the phone, I was like, give me a fucking break, Danny. You can't be serious. And then, of course, 40 games into the season, they're easily the top record in the West. And the on-court connectedness is there. It's there. You could see it. And he was right, and how I don't know how they did it, but they did, and they're bearing the fruits of that now.
Well, what I also think is really interesting about the Exec of the Year voting, because Lawrence Frank ended up winning, and that obviously caused
well-deserved.
Yeah, I was going to say it caused a lot of Lawrence Frank getting dunked on because of the way the Clippers, flamed out in the playoffs. But what's really driven home is, again, this is something that is voted on before the playoffs begin. It's a regular season. It is a
regular season. It would help if they gave these awards out during the regular season.
But
they're at the end of the playoffs.
But it reflects a presumption, I think, by a lot of people that the Clippers were going to end up winning a championship, which was not a stupid presumption. Even if you thought the Lakers had a better chance or the Clippers or the Bucks had a better chance, picking the Clippers was not stupid. In the same way, and this is what I actually think is more interesting, John Horst from the Bucks actually finished ahead of Rob Pelinka. And that's one that I look at and go, okay, that's purely just predicting the Bucks are going to win the championship, because what did John Horst actually do?
He got rid of their second best player or their third best player.
Yeah, I mean, he got a decent haul for Malcolm Brogdon, but it's not going to help him right away. He re-signed Brooke Lopez, brought in Robin, and I think Kyle Korver. He didn't really do anything. Or okay, I think Masai Ujiri is legit one of the best execs in this league, period. He finished ahead of Rob Pelinka. And all he really did was run a team back.
Right. It's the same exact team from last year.
He tried to re-sign a star. It didn't work, and he just ran the team back.
Right. And, they had a better season than a lot of people thought they would. And I guess credit to Masai Ujiri for ultimately deciding not to blow it up and for, really giving their fans that experience. And it turned into a great story. And I think that team really loved being around each other. But he didn't really do anything. Like it's really more respect, totally well earned for Masai Ujiri, I think, for the totality of his career, or even just the last couple years of his career, than what he actually did in 2019, 2020. Like Rob Pelinka did more than him.
Yeah, and again, I'm telling you, I think that vote reflects something that I noticed all year long, just a general Los Angeles Lakers skepticism. People just refuse to change their mind on this team. And this sizzle reel out there where you see a bunch of TV talking heads not picking the Lakers, and that's in line with what you saw. If you want to go back and look at any media people or outlets with an actual following. You want to talk about ESPN, you want to talk about Fox, you want to talk about guys like
Happy
Bill
Hour.
Sure, of course. Guys like Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo, who, they're not at the big media company, but they have huge followings in their own right. Everybody knows their respective voices within the NBA, a Stephen A or whoever. Go down the line. Nobody liked the Lakers this year. Nobody.
I don't know. I mean, but the Lakers were top three picked.
Okay, consensus top three. But when people had to make the choice, they never picked the Lakers.
There were few. You go back to the Athletic, preseason. Like they were in there. There people picked them, but
only folks like Woz who were part of the We Believe train.
I mean, this plucky little team that was. I mean, most people. I went back and looked at. Most people had the Lakers pegged to win 13 games this year, and it was. and man, did they just exceed expectations? Because Caruso was way better than people thought.
Yeah, and I think To be honest, like the Clippers were barely a bigger favorite than the Lakers by Vegas coming into the season. And we all know Vegas is generally smarter than everybody anyway, which is fair. But I'm just talking about the thought leaders, the people who have the most visibility, whether you want to talk about the inside guys, just go down the line. Nobody picked the Lakers. Nobody did. It just was not happening. People were very skeptical of the team. I remember my man Darius Soriano, right?
Yeah.
He wrote the Lakers was something like 17-3. And he had to write a blog guys, this is a good team. You guys can stop questioning them. They're good. Here's the numbers that back it up. Their defense is legit. This team is good. I know everybody told you before the season that they put together a deeply flawed roster because they didn't have a bunch of, Kyle Korvers on the team. But this team has shown you through 20 games that they're very good. And as you know, I think it was my man Top Haberstroh who first pointed this out. He did a piece where it's after the first 20 games, it's basically the playoffs. You have your playoff picture. Nothing generally ever changes throughout the season. And I'm all year long, people just I don't know. You see, they keep losing to the Clippers. I don't know. It was a lot of skepticism. And I think that vote is reflective of that. People were skeptical of this team.
Well, go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say, I think the vote, maybe some degree skepticism, because there definitely was a presumptive element to your picking who you think, other than Sam Presti, who I actually think should have won, because I think in his own right, that guy had the most impressive season of anybody. In the Houdini act that he managed to pull with Russell Westbrook and Paul George, getting out of those deals, moving them for actually good stuff, selling Chris Paul on that season. And, Brian and I both talked to people who know what was going on and said that, Chris Paul really liked what he heard from Sam Presti, and that was at least the foundation of investment, that sort of thing. And they managed to have this season where they go to the playoffs and they're set up incredible moving forward for a rebuild, and that's the only way a team like OKC can generally do something like that. He's who I would have voted for, but nobody is going to think that the Thunder can end up winning.
Guys like Connolly and in Denver. I mean, a couple guys finished behind Rob that I was like, you can make an argument. You know, it was. God, I got to look at the standings again, but it was.
I've got
Denver.
Tim Connolly was behind.
Tim Connolly was behind. I know Rob, and then who was behind Connolly? Oh, it was Dallas.
Yes.
What's his name? Don Nelson with 2 N's. Don Nelson. Like they did some impressive shit down there too, building a roster like that and putting that together. And I mean that it's a weird award because it's like, what are you supposed to be? Are you exceeding expectations? Are you a team that just like did a bunch of stuff that wasn't supposed to be good? Like, it is a bit of a popularity thing because people don't really like Rob. And,
here's a great question from Tay Wenji. If Kawhi came to the Lakers, do you think the executive vote will be different? Yes, I think Rob Pelinka gets fewer. Actually, I think the resentment is so high. If they manage to get Anthony Davis and Kawhi, nobody votes for him. I mean, it's going to be such a middle finger vote.
People would have voted for Mitch out of spite.
It would have been an uproar. I genuinely think that I'm very happy Kawhi didn't end up going to the Lakers because I don't think it would have made for a good storyline for people like us. They would have crushed everything moving. It would have been insane.
All three of those guys is like me getting rid of my blinds background and showing you what my house actually looks like.
That would have been insane. So I'm happy that didn't happen. And yeah, you're right. People would have been like, oh, big deal. All you did was get AD and Kawhi Leonard to play next to LeBron.
Well, they would have just said those guys forced their way to LA and Rob didn't have to do a thing.
Right. He didn't lift a finger to make it happen, essentially, is what they would have said, which is fine. I just think if you look at roster construction, specifically if you're going off of whatever the roster was the year before, you can't argue with the results of the team of this season as compared to last. Like the offseason moves were perfect, not perfect, but they were amazing because they're one win from the championship when they completely missed the playoffs last season, right?
Because LeBron got hurt.
Right, sure, but like you can't argue with the improvement year to year.
Oh, sure, but like what I think, I'm not sure if you read the Mannix column that.
Of course I read that.
Of course you read that.
Are you kidding? He's the captain of the We Believe Lakers. Of course he read
it. Didn't you see the footage of me outside Mannix's house? And so
Waz actually broke social distancing rules.
I shared that thing in every group chat that I'm in.
He actually broke social distancing rules so he could slap Chris Mannix with a white glove. And then he challenged Mannix to a duel.
You have stained the honor of my team, sir. But what I think is, and I understand what got
pistols or swords
said about this was like what he said to Dan Patrick earlier, is that the Lakers have a better chance of missing the playoffs than they do winning a title. And I shouldn't have done it. I got into a rabbit hole with some other people in the media and a couple of fans, whatever. But what I think is interesting about it, and this is true of sports, and what I think makes sports great, is the point he was basically trying to make is, especially in context, go back to September when the Lakers really did kind of look like a dumpster fire. And they had hired their third choice coach. And nobody knew Frank Vogel was going to work out this way. Like he was like the third, fourth guy that they were looking at. Nobody wanted to come take this job. Jason Kidd was going to stab him in the back in 30 seconds. And it didn't look like it did now. But his basic point was, it's hard for things to come together and win a title. Like a lot of stuff has to come together in a certain way for it to work. And none of it is ever preordained. If LeBron misses 35 games again this year, the Lakers, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, in a non-bubble season, what seed are they? Are they the 7th seed, the 8th seed? Do they miss the playoffs? Like as good as AD is, AD without LeBron on this roster, his team was better in New Orleans, so it's like that isn't a guarantee. And all of this is what I think is great about it, is like none of this stuff you could look at it and say, well, obviously they're going to go win it. Like nobody, it's completely reasonable not to expect them to have even gone 16-4 in the playoffs. And we knew, I already have them winning tomorrow, and we knew at that point they were really good. I think people should lean into this shit more than be like, how dare you point any of it out?
No, I don't even see. For me, it's not I dare you. For me, it's just, again, I bring up Bontemps because that's my boy, and I actually called him the day the Lakers clinched the number 1 seed, because he was one of the first people on the Lakers ain't gonna be shit this year bandwagons. And because he's my boy, I called him and I razzed him or whatever. But then, of course, I see him I think he was on TV and said, Heat in 6. And I'm like, you just refuse to learn your lesson, huh?
Look,
you just refuse to learn it. And that was the thing with Mannix. It's just like, no, just say I was wrong. That's all people wanted to hear. I was wrong. Instead, it was, nobody could have saw this coming. It's like, all right. Okay. I couldn't see LeBron and AD having just as good a chance to win the championship as anybody else. I couldn't see that happening. I think I did see it happen.
That's fair.
I did. I know for a fact I did.
There is, without question, an element of people in our industry who just have a real reluctance to ever admit they were wrong. And I think in part, this gets fueled by just the 24/7 nature of, the industry now and everything being so ubiquitous. And there's so many receipts. There are so many receipts of everything that you say.
Them up, Andy.
Right.
Like, you write a column or something, like you're guessing, because people want to know what do you think's going to happen. Well,
right. So exactly. I mean, like, as much as there are times when I hear Brian Windhorst, who we both like, say I don't make predictions, where I'm like, dude, lighten up and make a damn prediction. But then there's other times where I'm like, you know what? I get it. I sort of get it. Like, it would, if you're somebody of Brian Windhorst's profile, like, he's one of the 5-10 at lowest, biggest names in basketball media.
Absolutely.
That guy will have every receipt collected, like every. Like the three of us get to, I think we're all doing fine for ourselves, but the three of us at least get to remain somewhat
nobody
below.
Cares
right, exactly. if you're somebody like Windhorst, everything's getting kept track of. So I sort of get where he's coming from.
Yeah, it's the gift and the curse, right? When you're somebody like Windhorst or, my man Zach Lowe or any of those people, let's face it, people care what they say, but they also get to be rich, Yeah.
Well,
so
here's
it's the gift and the curse.
To me, that's not even a blessing and a curse. Give me the money. I don't give a shit how wrong you think I am. I don't care.
What's worse is, like, there's still enough people who come up with receipts for what we do, and we don't have the money. So it's like, how do we benefit from this game?
Yeah, you guys need a better deal than that, man.
It's like, we're not like on the streets and shit, but it's like, could be better. I'm willing. Like, did you guys see that CNBC? Because we all live in LA. Did you see that CNBC thing? They do some money column always does this every year, where they were talking about Joe Biden's potential tax policy and raising it on people who make over $400,000 a year. And they started breaking down how $400,000 a year in LA only kind of makes you upper middle class. It's really not that much money. And they start breaking down, like, all the line items, like based on, kids going to private school and taking 3 vacations a year, 2 of which were driving, only 1 was flying, and like eating out, like it's like something like $65 a day on food. What the fuck are you eating? But like all of these things, it's like, and I'm sitting here going, this was for a family of 4. I'm a family of 5. Let me be the guy who demonstrates to you what even in Los Angeles a person can do on $400,000 a year, right? And we'll talk afterwards. Like, am I going to be driving a Maserati? No. Are we going to be living a lot better than we do now? Yeah, about 3 times better, actually.
But you got to understand, CNBC they know their audience. Let's just say it's not Walmart and Amazon workers. So they know who their audience is. They're talking to a particular crowd, and they want people who make $500K a year to somehow feel sorry for themselves. It's
Why
the weirdest thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm just like that guy who cleans my house or washes my car. We have so much more in common than we think.
It's silly. It's silly.
60 according to the kid from New York City, $65 can get a Big Mac meal, but no supersize in LA.
I'll see if I can find it. It is crazy. It's like it really is. It's not $65 a week. It's $65 a day.
That's
on
insanity.
food for a family of 4.
It's a
Why?
lot.
Well, I mean, you just buy like $40 worth of shit and throw it out. Like, is that
That's a lot. I mean, like that's going out to a restaurant for at least one meal a day. Like at least
Have
for
these
your family.
people never heard of Top Ramen? Come on.
Or just, I mean, you can get decent groceries. Like you don't even have to go to like have to go to like the college level of living. Like there's
you don't even got like you can get busy at Whole Foods, which isn't even cheap for real.
Yes,
like that's not even
absolutely.
Cheap. Come on, man.
All right, so I got a couple before we get into this game that I got set up. I got a couple stats that Kirk Goldsberry put out there regarding tomorrow's finals game, which could end up the last. The Lakers have the opportunity to close out. He had a couple stats about LeBron that are just like, God damn. It's a lot's been made out of. He's got 259 playoff games, tied for most all time. Amount of playoff games missed.
This was staggering to me when I saw it.
0. He has never missed a playoff game ever.
Well, except the finals in 2011. Zing!
Like 259 playoff games is the equivalent of 3 NBA seasons and change. And in 3 NBA seasons and change, on top of the actual seasons that he's played, never missed a playoff game.
That's amazing.
That's staggering.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about that is not funny, but interesting. Stephen A., a person who I have a lot of respect for, he's a fellow Hollis Queens guy. Obviously, he's one of the biggest guys in media, but there was a clip running around where he was, because First Take, of course, did their 1/1,000,000th GOAT talk. And LeBron can't be
Has
a
that
GOAT.
been discussed before?
That's right. LeBron's not the GOAT because this is the softest era in NBA history. And I just love the idea that James Worthy would have put LeBron on his ass. Like Kevin McHale would have been too physical for LeBron. Like, what are y'all talking about?
Great use of Stephen A. voice.
This dude is indestructible. The proof is in the pudding. I don't think, Haywood Workman would have just clobbered him and he just wouldn't have got up and he would have been scared to go to the rack again. I'm sorry, Kevin Duckworth. It would have been fine. He would have been completely fine. My favorite thing is when LeBron rolls an ankle and his ankle is like the size of a baseball. And so he rolls his ankle and he just walks it off right after. It's happened so many times throughout his career. He's like, damn, that's a crazy sprain. He might miss the rest of the game. Nope, he just walks it off. This dude is just physically on another level.
He's another species.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, his peak, I'm somebody who's watched LeBron closely enough to know, he is nowhere close to what his peak was physically and just as an NBA player. He's on a downturn. Obviously, he's still excellent, but he is nowhere near what he was in 2012 and 2013. To me, honestly, the best LeBron was 2009. When nobody could stay in front of him and he was jumping over every single person, and he was scoring 30 while playing with Andy V, Zadrunas, and Sasha Pavlovich as floor spacers. If LeBron played in some type of 5-out, 4-out offense would have been impossible to deal with. Once he got ahead of steam going to the basket, he's finishing over. Forget, I could go all day about LeBron's physical peak and how far he is from that. Right. But that he's able to be this excellent now, this level of excellent is crazy at 35. The only person a perimeter player that even compares is Mike in 98 at 35 and how excellent he was.
Perfectly on cue because he is the best. As we were talking about the millionth, as you put it, was GOAT discussions going on First Take with Stephen A. Meta World Peace just tweeted out, "Everybody is the GOAT."
That's a great. He's right. We're all the greatest of all time. Guys.
I miss
That's a very
Meta.
humanist statement by my man Meta World Peace.
Mm-hmm.
Another Queens legend, by the way.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes. Yes. One more insane LeBron stat before we go to the game. Closeout win percentage, 79.2%. He has closed out nearly 4 out of every 5 opportunities he's had over his career. Jesus, man.
And what I think that speaks to a lot is, as a series goes on, LeBron figures out what the hell that team is doing. Like, he just gets better at attacking their weaknesses. He gets better at understanding what they're trying to do to him. I think you saw that in the second half yesterday, when the first half, he was still with the turnovers. Then in the second half, he's like, nah, I know what I need to do now. And he stopped that. I just think that's incredible. And something else that people need to, when they cite the finals record, because somehow, I need people, whenever they bring up the finals losses, they need to explain that to Doc Rivers. And he's going to be like, wait, so why did I get fired if it's better to lose in the second round than in the finals? Funny how that works. Anyway, when people bring up that final stuff, it's like, dude, the Clippers are just the perfect encapsulation of why that's a relevant and incredible feat that LeBron's been to the finals 10 times. Like, you're not always going to the finals. Even when you have the best team, you don't always make it to the finals, even when you are the favorite. Like, the fact that this dude could do that 10 times is crazy. And the example I use again is the Clippers, who all year you heard, no, this team is going to the finals. They got the best team. They're prepared for any team. They can beat anybody, blah, 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 blah. And they lost in the second round. So like, it's just crazy when you consider the breadth of this guy's career,
I just did the math. If Miami somehow manages to push this to 7 and then the Lakers end up winning, LeBron's closeout percentage drops to a mere 76%. if they manage to lose the next 2 games before closing out Miami in 7, he'll only be 76% in closeout games. That's just nuts.
Incredible.
He is otherworldly.
It's just unbelievable. We ready for the game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so as we're talking about, it's going to be Lakers Heat tomorrow, potentially the end of this series. LeBron James obviously played with the Heat before eventually joining the Lakers. So I've got a game where I'm going to give you guys both different guys who played for the Lakers and the Heat, and different statistical categories, and you guess which one is higher, depending on which one it is. We begin with one LeBron James, highest single season scoring average. Did it happen with the Lakers or the Heat?
Definitely.
Brian goes first.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Like playoffs or regular season?
Regular season. These are all regular season, by the way.
Miami.
And Waz, you said Miami?
Yeah. 100%.
Both incorrect. Actually,
Wow.
The Lakers last season 27.4, with the Heat 27.1 twice.
Wow.
Work out.
Yes, I know. I
realized he averaged 27 points last year. I thought it was like something like 25 something.
No,
I was
like 28, 8, and 8 last year.
I was really surprised by that.
And remember, that was a bad year.
It sucked
It
last
was a
year.
bad year.
Right.
It was.
He was uninterested and didn't try himself and averaged 28, 8, and 8. We should all suck at our jobs that much.
I know, seriously. Eddie Jones, higher scoring average in total with the respective franchise, Lakers or Heat?
In total, not single season.
Not single season, in total. That's Waz's answer. Okay, Brian.
I believe that is correct. Miami.
It is the Heat. 16.2 points per game versus 15.2 as a Laker. Lamar.
I feel like in Charlotte and in Miami, he started becoming. I felt like he became more of a feature type of guy after leaving the Lakers.
He did, but his scoring average is actually pretty close to what it was
higher
in
than
Miami.
The Lakers, yeah.
Wow,
he was pretty good. He was Laker fans, man. They were upset when he got traded, even paving the way for Kobe to really have more feature role.
A good player, man.
He was
so tenacious on defense.
He was
could knock down open buckets. I was a fan of Eddie Jones, man. He was a fun guy to watch.
He was popular. Lamar Odom, higher rebounding average in total for his time either as a Laker or a Heat. Brian goes first.
Laker.
Heat.
It is the Heat. 9.7 rebounds per game versus 9.5 for Lamar Odom as a Laker, but he did get 2 rings. Luol Deng, turnovers per game, more as a member of the Miami Heat in totality or Lakers in totality. And moving forward, I believe these are all going to be in totality.
Am I going first?
It is Brian going first. Luol Deng, turnovers per game as a Heat or as a Laker.
You can't turn the ball over if you don't have a uniform. So that does cut down on some of it. I will say Miami.
Yeah, I would say Miami too, because I feel like those teams were fairly up-tempo type of teams. When they had that nice season when he was like the stretch 4 with D Wade and all of that. So I'm gonna go with Miami.
You are correct. It is Miami. 1.3 turnovers per game versus 0.8 as a Laker. He was
criticized him.
he was only allowed to do damage to the salary cap, not necessarily on the floor. Glenn Rice, offensive rating per Basketball References metrics, higher as a member of the Lakers or a member of the Heat. Waz goes first.
Charlotte Hornets.
I would say a member of the Lakers for sure, because he was getting minutes with Kobe and Shaq. So I would say a member of the Lakers for sure.
I'm going to say Heat.
It is the Lakers. Waz is correct. 112 offensive rating with the Lakers versus 111 as a member of the Heat. I know it.
That's insane. I didn't think he would have that type of offensive rating with the Heat.
He was pretty good, man.
No, he was good, but I didn't think of those teams as like offensively. But the 90s, because they were such low possession games, it skews your vision of who was actually effective on offense, because that's back when we were still going by points per game.
Smush Parker, better defensive rating per Basketball References metrics, Lakers or Heat? Brian goes first.
Lakers, I'll say.
I'm going to say the Heat, because the Laker teams were just bad. I can't imagine that they were good at defense. So give me the Heat.
It was actually the Lakers that he was better. 108 defensive rating versus 111 in Miami.
Wow. He was a lot fatter in Miami.
I got to tell you, for all the shit that Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss took for having Smush Parker on that team, at least that was like a scrap heap recovery thing. Pat Riley actually saw that stint.
He paid a lot of it too.
He paid him pretty handsomely.
Culture.
Just let you know, even the great GMs miss every now and then. Roni Turioff, our buddy, higher field goal percentage with the Lakers or the Heat in totality. Waz goes first.
Give me the Heat. He wasn't getting a lot of chances on that Bron and D Wade team, but I would imagine they were all layups. So give me the
Heat. I'll say Lakers.
It actually is the Heat. Waz now pulling ahead 5-3, 53% versus 50%. A few more of these. Brian Shaw, games started in total. Miami Heat or the Lakers?
I'll say Miami.
Man,
I'd forgotten he even played for the Heat.
I didn't know he played. I thought he went from Orlando to LA.
He had a lot of stuff.
Give me the Lakers. Give me the Lakers.
Ooh, it's the Heat, and by a large margin.
I don't think he started very many games for the Lakers.
120 games started with the Heat, despite playing one fewer season than he did with the Lakers.
Wow.
Only 30. So it's 5-4.
He never started. He was always a bench guy.
Two more to go. Michael Beasley assists per game. Higher average with Miami or with the Lakers? Waz goes first.
Man, I'm going to go Miami. His usage in those early years was such that he had to at least just fall into some assists. Whereas when he became like veteran minimum guy, he was coming in the gun every single time. So give me the Miami Heat.
I feel like this is a trick question. And the answer is the Lakers, despite the fact we all know that in his entire career here, he had 3 assists.
It actually is. It actually is the Heat. 1.1 versus 1.0. The difference, though, is that in Miami, Michael Beasley averaged 23.8 minutes per game. As a Laker, just 10.7. So it cannot be overstated just how little interest Michael Beasley had in passing while a member of the Heat. It's pretty shocking how little he passed the ball. So we got one left, but as luck would have it, Waz up 6-4. This one is worth 3. Waz just randomly. Who'd have figured it? So Brian has an opportunity.
Okay.
Shaq, higher free throw percentage as a Laker or as a Heat? Who goes first?
Well, it's got to be Waz.
It's got to be Waz because he's
okay. There's absolutely no anything here. I'm just gonna go with the Heat, just because
I'm saying the Lakers.
I can't remember a time Shaq ever anything but horrible, so I don't know. So Miami.
Oh, Brian with the comeback. It's actually the Lakers. He had a better percentage, 53.3 versus 46% with Miami. 46%.
Wow.
It's the We Believe Bryans. Lucky to come from behind. Nobody thought I could do it.
How did you do it?
Thought I could do it.
Just like these Lakers going into this game tomorrow with a mere 3-1 advantage. They believe.
The most disrespected pundit in all of Los Angeles you are, Brian.
You have had, by the way, Waz, kudos, just like chef's kiss. The way you've blown out this We Believe Lakers thing has been amazing. It has been there have been others doing it, but I think nobody has really run this thing into the ground with such glee the way you have. It's been awesome.
Well, but it's just there for the taking because again, I remember Portland was made to be the greatest 8th seed in the history of mankind going into it. The Lakers offense was dragging and blah, and Portland is this and that. And I was just like, guys, really? Really? The team that couldn't beat Memphis and Brooklyn without like hijinks? Really? Okay. All right, cool. Now we got the Rockets. Oh, they're going to spread the Lakers out. The Lakers can't play small ball. Oh, the Rockies are going to be a matchup nightmare. And I'm like, OKC just like literally a tip wide open 3-pointer from knocking these jokers out. We know OKC isn't of the same quality as the Lakers. Why are we doing this? People didn't do it so much with Denver because Denver had just beat the Clippers, so they kind of relaxed a little bit. But it was just like, yo, what is even going on here? So I had to have fun with it. But the best part about it, guys, is that there were Laker fans who don't know me and don't realize my shtick, and I'm getting retweeted into feeds without any context. And be like, who is this freaking joker? Take his blue check away. He's a fucking idiot. So that was fun too. It's always fun when people aren't in on the joke.
It was glorious.
My favorite form of Twitter is this person clearly doesn't get the joke Twitter.
Yes, it's the best.
Yeah, and especially when you can run an entire thread where everyone else who follows you gets the joke, but this guy doesn't.
No, but some of my followers would do the light shoulder tap like, it's a joke, bro. Like, relax, calm down. Like, he actually picked the Lakers back in October of 2019 to win the championship. Like, he's just trolling at this point.
When was that?
Shoot, man. Every single thing that I did, I picked the Lakers.
When was October of 2000?
Oh, right.
That sounds made up. Like that there was October of 2019.
We had a live show. Count the Dings did. I think it was Chicago. Was October. I don't remember. It might have even been Bay Area. I don't remember. Everything sort of, last year's just sort of just been crammed into one thing. And I remember the crowd booing and laughing at me when I picked the Lakers. This is a true story. It happened.
Wow. I believe that.
I mean, it wasn't that outrageous a pick. My God. I mean,
I'm telling you guys, man.
I think my preseason pick to win it all was actually the Clippers, but I know for sure I had the Lakers going to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, like,
of course,
they were not exactly this little plucky story. I mean, my God.
And then you look around the West. Who are these teams that were supposed to be so much better? Was Denver and Utah and the Rockets? I'm like, I don't believe in those cats.
There's a difference between seeding. Like a lot of people pick the Lakers to finish as a lower seed because they figured they wouldn't try to finish as a higher seed.
Yeah, that was my logic.
Right, but
LeBron's team is definitely underperformed underachieved in the regular season. Basically, once he left Miami, all of his teams underachieved in the regular season. Like that's just been the case since he left there.
You need to keep your foot on the pedal. So, you manage AD, you manage LeBron, you get through the season. They didn't do it. They actually came out and were really serious about winning every game. So,
and you could probably thank Caruso Sanity for that, man.
Career Sanity. Love him. That is actually great. It is actually a cool story.
Oh,
all right, dude.
Awesome. Thank you guys, man.
Wosny Lambre, what do you got to plug? Let people know how to find
just subscribe to the Athletics NBA show feed. I do a show called Basket Buds with Zach Harper, Jay King, Dave DeFore, Black Trey, and also on those drop Hoops and Jason drops on Wednesdays with the Hall of Famer and myself, David Aldridge. Every single Wednesday, we talk to coaches, execs, players, other media guys. It's a really fun show, so check that out. And then please subscribe to my Culture podcast on the Black Opinions Matter feed.
Yes.
Also,
where I get into a little politics, movie, music. I just try to dabble in different things, man. I'm not a one-trick pony.
But you know what's great about too, before we let you go, what I really like about that podcast in particular is how far you guys go out of your way to try to give other people a platform on it. Like it's very much, it seems to me at least, a showcase as much for other people who may not have your platform as you guys yourself. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love talking to different people and just getting different perspectives. Because, even though like you guys, I work in the industry, but also like you guys, I'm still a fan of this shit. So I love talking to people about it all the time. And number two, it's less work for me.
Well, I mean, when you're managing 7 podcasts, you deserve a break.
Exactly.
Dude, we love having you on, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys, man. Can't wait to talk to you guys again. Be good.
Yeah, you as well, man.
Tomorrow night, Clinton Yates, still endeavoring for Clinton Yates, and Monday, Zach Schwartz. We got a couple NBA shows coming up. Still kind of nailing down next week, but we will have Gustavo Arellano later in the week, Thursday or Friday, and that's going to be a super fun show talking about voting in LA, getting everybody ready for the election, and where to get the best tortillas. He's going to tell us, and we're going to eat them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got a tortilla tournament coming up with KCRW. You can go to kcrw.com and check that out. But that's going to be a really fun show. So we'll get a bunch of stuff lined up for next week, and we'll do some NFL. We'll do some baseball. It's been fun. This is all working out swimmingly so far.
Indeed.
All right. So we'll see everybody tomorrow night with Clinton Yates talking Game 5.
Dank u, Nederland.